you ever heard of Skynet?
I have not, Liz.
Okay, so Skynet is this website. It's a program where they took all of these, they trained AI on like 5,000 knitting patterns and then had AI create knitting patterns, and people started making them. And they have all these great names because knitting patterns always have these like fancy names. And so they have the fancy names, but nothing they create is useful or wearable or anything.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, they are like hats that look like brains because they don't ever actually like fold down. They are sweaters with too many arms, similar to some of the pictures AI generates. It is unbelievable. It's like it knows what is in a pattern, but like not how it's all constructed.
Wait, so instead of a hallucination, it's a hallucination?
Sure, Matt.
I just came up with that.
That was great.
That's rough. I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Rade.
And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI in K-12 education.
In today's episode, AI Hope or Hype, a K-12 reality check, we'll unpack a New York Times opinion piece called Press Pause on the Silicon Valley Hype Machine. But first, in the news, Matt returns to his obsession with holographics and wearables, including his new Meta Ray-Ban glasses.
Ooh, fancy. Next, Liz will discuss the important intersection between AI and gender, especially with respect to the potential economic impacts of AI among women, as well as bias in existing large language models and the lack of representation in major AI labs and companies.
Then we'll cut right to beneath the surface on this short stack episode as we explore if AI is all hope, all hype, or perhaps a little bit of both. And we'll end with a new version of Chatback called Short Stack Chatback. Matt, anyone who listens to ChatEDU understands that you believe we'll look back in 5 years and be amused at how much we focused on the chatbot in the early generative AI days, and that AI voice, video, virtual reality, and eventually even holographics will come to dominate how we interact with AI. I gather a few of these things might come together with the help of some smarties at Stanford University. What's happening over on the west coast of the U.S.?
Well, good question, Liz. I'm definitely punching a little bit over my intellectual weight class on this one, but Stanford University researchers, led by Professor Gordon Wettstein, have developed a prototype for lightweight AR glasses, augmented reality glasses, using metasurface waveguides and AI-driven holography. See, I'm already over my head. All right, but hang on. Let me try to go deeper. The technology involves controlling light paths at the nano level using spatial light modulation, complex light patterns, and real-time adjustments, all facilitated by AI algorithms.
Matt, you don't really understand that, do you?
No, not at all. But, I'm not Dr. Rade. Oh, wait. The doctor is in education, is that right?
Yeah, definitely not physics or whatever this is.
All right, but nowadays I turn to Pi when I'm over my head. And funny enough, I talk to Pi no matter what the topic. It could be regarding getting a teenager to clean up their room or spatial light modulation. So let's try. Hey Pi, can you help me understand controlling light paths at the nano level using spatial light modulation, complex light patterns, and real-time adjustments? All facilitated by advanced AI algorithms?
That's quite an advanced topic you've brought up. Controlling light at the nano level using spatial light modulation, complex light patterns, and AI algorithms involves manipulating the properties of light in very precise ways. It's a rapidly advancing field with applications in areas like imaging, spectroscopy, and photonics. Advanced AI algorithms can help us analyze and model these interactions, leading to new insights and applications. It's a fascinating area of research, but it can get quite technical. Is there a specific aspect of this topic you're particularly interested in?
Oh, sorry. Can you just explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader? Let's start there.
Sure thing. Let's make this a bit more understandable. Imagine you have a flashlight and you want to control how the light shines on a wall with spatial light modulation. It's like having a special tool that lets you create different shapes and patterns with the light, kind of like shadow puppets. But instead of using your hands to make the shapes, you use electricity or other light to control the patterns. Does that make more sense?
It does. Thank you, Pi. Liz, shadow puppets. Pi really knows me, doesn't she?
She certainly does.
All right. So these lightweight AR glasses may take 5 to 10 years to get to market, but they're going to bring the type of experience that folks are getting in Quest 3 or the Apple Vision Pro to a regular pair of glasses. Professor Wetstein says, our headset appears to the outside world just like everyday pair of glasses, but what the wearer sees in the lenses is like an enriched world with vibrant, full 3D color and imagery.
Wow, that's cool. So this reminds me of our National Science Foundation work with augmented reality embedded in hands-on STEM tasks for high school students. I know at the time, the engagement we saw with the students leveraging AR through their smartphones was pretty compelling. And it's pretty cool to think about how that both extends to a pair of glasses and becomes more immersive as we move towards virtual reality.
Right. No, exactly. I've been working with a really good friend of mine named Dr. Gina Coleman up in Western Massachusetts. Gina is the director of DEI at the Breen Center in Pittsfield. And, I think we both had this experience, but my first VR experience was in this wonderful short piece called Traveling While Black. It triggers this amazing empathy to really understand the lives of individuals during the civil rights movement into the 60s and 70s. So Gina's been using this experience in her DEI work along with A Thousand Cut Journey, an Anne Frank experience, and this really neat app called Body Swaps to help individuals make new and meaningful connections to people from different backgrounds. It's wild. She routinely has groups. She's got to bring tissues. Like folks are sometimes tearing up and it's coming underneath the bottom of the VR headset. The rub, though, because we've facilitated a bunch of these sessions together, is the headset, right? The tech is a little bit tricky and cumbersome. So the idea that you can throw on a pair of glasses and have this like rich, immersive experience is so compelling.
Yeah, I've done each of these experiences you've referenced, and they were really amazing and truly did help me feel like I was just present with people in ways I've never been before. But what I can't really wrap my head around is how a pair of glasses will create that wraparound immersion. I guess that's the trick with holographics. Perhaps the tech can create that experience, and then you'd say, hey, glasses, and switch to the pass-through mode, which turns off the VR settings and lets you go back into the real world when maybe your husband is asking you an important question and you actually need to pay attention.
Oh, is that an issue?
No.
Yeah, no, that's the trick. And Stanford says that, it may be a decade, so who knows where we'll be in that time. But speaking of hey glasses, I just got my Meta Ray-Bans. These are not quite AR yet, but they're smart glasses. They have Meta AI built into the stem of the glasses. So I can say, hey, Meta, and it will chat with me like we just did with Pi or the ChatGPT voice model without Scarlett Johansson, sadly. And yes, Liz, I've not forgotten about our episode where we illustrated the gender bias in Meta's LLM, large language model, nor have I forgotten about the dangers of Meta's likely advertising-based business model. But Liz, I've got a new pair of glasses. And what's more, they've got vision built in. So I can say, hey, Meta, what am I looking at? And it will describe it to me.
That sounds great until you're looking at some plant in your garden and it identifies the species and then pops up a Home Depot ad for plant fertilizer.
Yes, you're a buzzkill, but point taken. Nevertheless, as a podcast that focuses a great deal on moving beyond the little text box in chat, it'll be exciting to see where these go in the short run and then where things like the Stanford AR AI glasses take us down the line. All right, perfect, Liz. So just as I seem to have a pattern of stories that I focus on, you've been doing a great job coming back to some important themes, including things like student voice, student agency, as well as equity in the world of AI. When we're doing a presentation, we go through a series of key challenges with generative AI, and one is certainly equity in many forms. Today, you're going to outline a story about gender inequity in the world of AI.
Yes, there's a new piece in Forbes entitled The Gendered Impacts of AI on Women's Careers that, as a woman who is raising two young women, has me more than a little concerned. So the opening of the story says that women are more likely to be impacted by the disruption that AI is causing in the workforce. So basically, the jobs that AI is going to replace first are jobs that are dominated by women. Examples are administrative assistants, any of the administrators in social services, healthcare, education. Again, AI is not replacing the teachers and the nurses, but it could replace some of the administrative support staff in these fields, like the people who do payroll and other critical tasks. So obviously, this is all concerning through an equity lens. But the article wasn't all bad news, and in fact, there were some ideas on how to make things better in the future. The author, Lindsay Kohler, first recommends that employers take note of where the women are in their organization and ask questions. Are they represented at all levels? Are they progressing? Are they being promoted? Then she recommends taking a hard look at what work means. With the ability of AI to make work more efficient, how has that changed the work environment in an organization? As there are possible reductions in the workforce, how does that impact other employees? And she recommends that with this potential extra time, that jobs actually become smaller and more focused, and then time can be used for upskilling to actually prepare for promotions, and then doing work that is more exciting and engaging. So as the workforce changes with AI, it's a great opportunity to deconstruct and reconstruct the jobs people are doing, which is going to be really important for employee well-being.
Yeah, I think we've talked a little bit about the bank teller story, right? Where everyone said, oh, the ATMs are all the bank tellers in the world will be gone. Those are jobs that disproportionately are held by women. And in reality, there are more banking-related jobs, but there has been upskilling. So less transactional stuff and more financial services and consulting. Okay, great. I mean, I think this is a really important piece. We've tried to think carefully about the types of jobs that folks will have and being careful not to say that women will have, like Liz has some kinds of jobs and Matt has other kinds of jobs. But the reality is when the day is done, that there is a higher number of women in these roles. And so there is a greater risk. I think there's also, as we were saying in the opening, right, there's just a lack of representation in some of the AI labs. So what's the impact of that?
Yeah, when we think more about the role of women in AI, we know the labs are dominated by men, and there's not a lot of women in leadership roles. But there's some good news here, too. AI for All is a U.S.-based nonprofit dedicated to increasing diversity and inclusion in AI, education, research, development, and policy. And they work with young adults, often college students from underrepresented groups like women and minority students, to get them into careers in AI. So people are looking at this and trying to help make more pathways for women to get into those leadership roles and make their way into the labs.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think we need to do a better job on our end as well, profiling. There are a number of women in critical roles in the leading AI labs. Mira Murati, who led the spring announcement for OpenAI, we talked about in the last episode, is the chief technical officer. Anthropic, which is another really one of the large AI companies. Daniela Amadei is the co-founder of that lab. We've also talked about Timnit Gebru and Dr. Joy Malamwini. So, we'll keep profiling, but make sure that that's something that we're doing a good job as well here on ChatEDU.
All right, Matt, it's already time to go beneath the surface.
Woohoo!
And unpack a key question regarding AI hope versus AI hype, especially in education. Obviously, you and I are evangelists for AI and its potential to impact so many different parts of our lives. But some people have a different view. In fact, Julia Angwin, in a New York Times article, says it's looking less like an all-powerful being and more like a bad intern whose work is so unreliable that it's often easier to do the task yourself. Ouch. So, Matt, let's go through some of Julia's key observations and see what stacks up on our side of the street for K-12 education.
Okay, perfect. I think it's a great idea. So the first is that the AI models like ChatGPT were claimed to have exceptional capabilities, like scoring in the 90th percentile in the bar exam, but actually that score is much lower. I think they found that it's 62% for ChatGPT-4, where it was like 10% for ChatGPT 3.5. So this cuts close to home. On Friday, I did a presentation where I referenced that 90% score. And, she's right. I typically share 4 or 5 studies that speak to the improvement of these models on both the cognitive benchmarks, but other methodologies, right? So we've got things like take a test, but also more dynamic real-world situations. One that I just shared is from AMIE, a research AI system for diagnostic medical reasoning and conversations. This was fascinating. They took 149 actors playing patients, and they were texting live with 20 primary care doctors or Google's new medical LLM, MedGemini. And the results were really interesting, right? You get the idea. So I'm either, interacting with a real doctor or I'm interacting with an AI chatbot. And the AI beat the primary care doctors on 28 out of 32 characteristics and tied on the other 4 as compared to human doctors. From the perspective of the patients, the AI won 24 of 26 scales for empathy and judgment. So, yeah, it's a little rough on the bedside manner. I think it's important that we're careful and thoughtful about the use of statistics and studies as evidence here. We try to use several sources and methodologies as we're either conducting professional development or helping schools write curriculum materials or lesson plans with respect to AI. The bottom line is it's important for students and teachers to understand that these systems are performing at exponentially higher levels. And yes, you can legitimately poke holes in lots of different ways, but you wouldn't want to ignore the advancements for a variety of reasons in K-12.
Absolutely. So the next issue is overstated achievements. So, for example, Google claimed AI discovered over 2 million new chemical compounds, but evidence for their novelty and utility was lacking. So this is another one that resonates with us. Just a few weeks ago, we did a podcast titled AI for Good, the literacy component we might be missing. Here we argued that mostly non-generative AI models and systems are delivering remarkable results in areas including health, energy, the environment, and yes, material science. Our point was that the near obsession with generative AI, ChatGPT, and the big large language models are causing schools to miss out on profiling non-generative AI advancements here in the curriculum. So here again, Julia Angwin makes a great point, and we need to be careful to unpack specific headlines and studies. But if we look at multiple studies and outcomes, the bigger picture remains important. It's impossible to look at the sum total of AI developments and say there's nothing going on here.
And, we weren't doing this just to cheerlead. As you said, our point was to make sure that educators have a full picture of AI strengths and weaknesses as folks work on literacy development and curriculum writing. Interestingly, a bill was just introduced in the U.S. Senate requiring AI literacy in K-12 schools. And that's great. It's an important time to recognize as we do that work that, one, Americans do have a fairly dim view of AI as compared to other nations. And two, we're overly focused on generative AI, maybe perhaps driving that dim view. But we're not focused on other forms of AI, including machine learning, deep learning, AI vision, and the like that are the backbones of these types of research positive impacts. Okay, moving on. So the next one is unreliable and inefficient performance. And the assertion is that AI often requires more effort to correct its output than to perform the task manually, making it unreliable for practical use. And, sometimes that's the case. I think Julia Angwin's making a totally valid point here. I'm not sure it passes a straight face test that indicates that educators at least think it's worth the effort. Maybe when the shine fades off the magic word-making machine, folks will sober up a bit. But I spend quite a few minutes in the beginning of each session. I ask folks to run through, something that AI has done for them in the last few weeks that they find really compelling. And in the early days, I would get like 1 or 2 hands go up. I mean, now half of the room, the hands go up, Liz, and I can't get folks to shut up. They're just like, it did this, it did that. And I don't think it is that they're just totally swayed by, again, the magic word making. It is often folks are talking about how it's allowing them to do something really useful for students, like differentiation of text, or save them a lot of time.
Yeah, what she's not fully stating here that is a major concern from teachers is the hallucination part of the unreliable performance. If this New York Times opinion piece was written by a teacher or school leader, the number one concern would be hallucinations. By the way, Matt, I understand there's a concerted effort to have folks stop using that word and switch to confabulations.
Yep. Yeah, I think the mushroom science people want to own that word, or maybe it's pushback from, like Big Fish or Big Dead. They're lobbies of the jam bands. So we'll see. Liz, did you know, by the way, that I was a big Deadhead in the late 1980s?
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, it's true. I saw Fish with like 30 people in a barn at my college, and now you got to pay like $5,000 to see them at the Sphere in Las Vegas. So I'd stick with the barn experience. They do this thing where they jump up and down in trampolines, and they were much younger than they would jump really high. I'm not sure how those jumps are going now. All right, I totally digress. Let's get back to this serious work.
Okay, so The fourth topic is limited improvement potential. So the assertion is that AI might not improve significantly due to constraints like limited training data and high energy consumption. And this is fascinating. We haven't done a great job here on ChatEDU covering either of these important topics, but these AI models are huge energy and huge water hogs. And yes, there's also the importance of what happens when there's no new data to train on. You can see Google and OpenAI striking these licensing deals with folks like Reddit. But the systems are actively starting to train on their own outputs, which will show up all over the web. And here's the rub. We've discussed that when you ask any teacher to grade the output of some educational chatbot request, like write a lesson, make a rubric, make my SMART goals, write a letter home to a parent, they will always give it somewhere between a C+ and a B-.
Exactly.
Our contention then, and our work with them, is to refine their prompting and conversation with that bot to go from a B to an A. But if you assume that lots of the AI-generated blog posts and web pages are called SEO-driven websites, that's search engine optimization, designed to get clicks and make a few bucks are all C+, then the large language models are training on subpar, subhuman stuff, and they will start to go in the other direction, like become dumber. Now, there's also a burgeoning field of creating synthetic data specifically for training that is smarter.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, as a math geek, you told me about an example of synthetic data development that allowed a model to solve a math problem it couldn't solve because there weren't enough examples to train on.
Right. So researchers at Google DeepMind used AI-generated synthetic data to solve complex geometry problems with their AI system named Alpha Geometry. So to address the scarcity of existing geometric data, they created nearly 500 million random geometric diagrams and fed them to the symbolic engine, which analyzed each diagram and produced statements about its properties. These statements were organized into 100 million synthetic proofs to train the language model. This work was documented in a research article published in Nature on January 17, 2024.
Wait, so did it solve the problem?
Yes, it did.
All right, the last assertion we're going to cover is resource allocation, right? And the assertion is that investing heavily in AI may divert resources from practical innovations. And here's another place where Julia Angwin, I think, is really on point. It's a critically important point, and I'm not sure it's a reason to stop, but it's certainly a reason to pause and be thoughtful. In our last episode, That's a Wrap, exploring the fate of custom AI teacher tools, we explored the need for AI planning teams and other stakeholders to weigh in on the value proposition of various AI tools because they're beginning to cost like real money. I mean, the first half of the year, everything was like free. It's all free. Magic School was free. Bard, which is now Gemini, was free. ChatGPT was free. And then suddenly these pro accounts started popping up at $20 a month. And after Christmas, Magic School, which had been free, magically started to charge money. And then on the back half of the year, it became super clear that schools were going to want to do something we've talked a lot about, which is student-facing AI. But that comes with a price point, right? Anything from Conmigo, which could be as much as $4 a month per student, to other models that were $4 a year. But when you have tens of thousands of kids, there's suddenly a big bill that you weren't prepared for. And this doesn't include all the various ways that existing tools that people love and use are going to start upselling for their generative AI. Do you know what PowerSchool's AI tool that they've built in is called?
No idea.
It's called Power Buddy.
Oh, how cute.
Do you think they used ChatGPT to come up with that name?
I don't know.
Power Buddy.
Power Buddy. I agree that an AI planning team is central here. So often the conversation starts with, we need a policy. But really, when we get these teams together, there are a few really important deliverables they need to think about, not just a policy. One may very well be a policy, or better yet, a guidance document.
Yeah, totally. Or better yet, even two guidance documents. I've seen a number of schools now start to create one that's kind of adult-facing for parents and board members, but also a student-facing document that helps students understand what is this stuff and what are acceptable uses.
Thanks for interrupting, but that's totally true. So in addition to those two deliverables, there's important work around the why and the how. Why are we doing all this AI stuff? What problems are we addressing? What opportunities are we taking advantage of? And what district priorities are we amplifying with AI? And then how? How are we integrating into the curriculum? How are we building the capacity of teachers and leaders? How are we organizing the tech? And how are we budgeting for the work?
Hallelujah, Liz.
Oh my goodness.
That was the second most lame interjection on my part.
That was bad. But the reality is, these new cost centers come at the same time that many districts are facing this fiscal cliff with the end of COVID funds. So folks are really going to need to be able to be thoughtful about these investments. And they need to keep on top of new developments like OpenAI releasing the top tier model for free. So keep listening to ChatEDU and we'll get you up to speed.
That's our promise. I like it.
All right, so we did not cover all of Julia Angwin's New York Times opinion, but focused on those most related to education. And the full read is really worth checking out. She raises so many important questions and ends with this zinger. The biggest question raised by a future populated by unexceptional AI, however, is existential. Should we as a society be investing tens of billions of dollars, our precious electricity that could be used toward moving away from fossil fuels, and a generation of the brightest math and science minds on incremental improvements in mediocre email writing?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I don't know if it's mediocre. My emails are getting much better, but yeah, her point's well taken. If you want to hear more from Julia, she was a friend of Pivot on a recent episode of the wonderful tech and business podcast, Pivot.
Yeah, Matt, I think if you and I had written this opinion piece, we would have had our own concerns to put front and center with respect to AI in education. I'm not sure we would call them hype, as I worry that word just makes it easier to dismiss the real and present challenges of AI in education. And unfortunately, teachers and school leaders and students and parents don't have that luxury. But I suspect these would be our top 5. We've gone over them all in detail over the last 10 plus podcast episodes, so we won't rehash in detail, but we thought it's important to call them out. So our top 5 would be hallucinations, bias, deep fakes, the erosion of trust, and equity.
Yeah, the hallucination one just got better too, right? I think at Google I/O, they released this generative search results, and it is replacing the 10 blue links. So they'll provide like a generative summary if you ask a question. And people have been posting these really funny hallucinated results where Google's generative search results suggested that they should add glue to pizza to keep the cheese to stick on, or eat 1 rock a day.
Oh, can we please start calling them confabulations?
Confabulations, sorry. Sorry to the mushroom science people. All right, so then rather than give 3 to 5 takeaways as we often do, we simply encourage you to think carefully about your AI strategy and read Julia's piece. I think it's important to be reminded. But whether you're focused on your classroom, your school, or your district, be real about the remarkable opportunities presented by AI, but also the legitimate critiques.
Hopefully without labeling them hype.
Yeah, that's right. So you can lead a thoughtful discussion and plan for next year with your students, your parents, your colleagues, and your partners.
All right, ready, Matt? As we prepare to shift into summer mode, rather than unpack a question from a listener or participant in one of our sessions, we're going to have our pal Pi, or another AI phone-a-friend tool, answer a quick question related to our Beneath the Surface topic. But we're going to challenge the AI to answer in no more than 3 sentences. And because it's summer, we'll have a bit of fun and have the AI to respond in a particular style. Let's see what Pi has to say. Hey, Pi. Is AI in education more hope or hype? Please answer in the style of Dr. Seuss in no more than 3 sentences.
In classrooms where learning's the aim, AI steps in to join the game. But does it help or just create fame? More hope or more hype? That's the name of the game.
Was that 3 sentences?
Yeah, and she didn't really answer our question.
Pi has never been so concise in the history of all podcasting with ChatEDU.
My apologies for missing the mark on answering your question. Let me try again, still in the style of Dr. Seuss and within 3 sentences. With AI in schools, there's promise and hype. Its impact on learning must be seen, not just type. For now, we hope, but only time will tell if it's ripe.
Better.
Still not great, but better.
Thank you for giving me another chance. I'll keep working on my Dr. Seuss style responses to make them even better. If you have any specific suggestions on how I could improve, please let me know. I'm always eager to learn and grow.
I've been talking, Liz, with some teachers about this whole piece, right? Not just with Pi, but when the AI will apologize as if it has, sentience and feelings. It's like, I'm sorry, I got that confabulation wrong. Let me try again, right? No one's sorry. It's like mathematical modeling. Give me a break.
It's very true, but it makes you feel good.
All right. Short stack done. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, indeed, Matt. So please keep listening. As always, we'd love to hear what you think, so please let us know at ChatEDU@edadvance.org. Please also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. We've learned so much about algorithms, and really, it helps.
Nice. Roll the credits, Liz.
ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Ahmed Malik, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson. Gary is the ChatEDU Design and Outreach Ginsu Knife, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and incoming executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. Finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
See you next time.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance. On behalf of Matt and Liz and our entire agency, I want to thank you for listening to our ChatEDU podcast. We will be dropping episodes weekly for the rest of this school year, and then we will go to a special news schedule for the summer, looking for in-depth episodes to return in the fall of 24, along with a community of practice and a new micro-credential as well. Take care, and thanks again, and tell your friends about ChatEDU.